Hey, welcome to this episode of the Spiritual Awakening Annual YouTube Summit with me, your host, Iona Mead. I'm the host at the SoulLegacyTV, Spiritual Business Success with Iona. So welcome to this episode. I've got a very special guest with me, Robin Knott. Welcome, Robin. Welcome to the show.
Hi,
So
thank
Robin,
you. I'm excited to be here.
thank you. So where are you tuning in from or streaming from or joining us from, Robin? Where are you in the world? I'm in the UK.
I am in Ohio in the USA, so for me it's Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, so it's 4 now for me. All right. So Robin, thank you again for bringing your energy. And if you're new to the Spiritual Awakening Annual YouTube Summit, I am inviting guests in to share their spiritual awakening story with you and share the tools that they've used for their spiritual ascension journey. And then each of my guests are actually giving a gift to what I call the spiritual alchemy giveaway. So we have that for upgraders, and we also have the spiritual ascension after show. So all of the details will be in the show notes and in the description. Anything that we mention, Robin, her bio and a link to her website, the Energy Healing School, will also be down below. So you can hit Robin up. Robin also has a YouTube channel at the Energy Healing TV. So I love that. So before we dive into your story, Robin, and what you do today and who you do it for, I just want to share a little bit about our connection, right? Because we've been connected for a while now. So I wanted to bring in guests that I resonate with and I've got some kind of connection to. And if you're watching this, let me just pull up and see the comments. If you're watching this in the attendees group for the Spiritual Awakening and your YouTube Summit, then thank you. And thank you for bringing your energy in there, commenting. We will come back to the comments. I am streaming this everywhere. So if you are commenting and you don't see me pull up any comments, it's not because I just don't see them. And this will be streamed out onto platforms as well. So podcast platforms. So Robin, our journey, how it started. Well, I'll let you tell the story of how we were connected and how we've got started on this journey.
Okay, so I was actually in someone else's group who invited me over to what was then the Spiritual Business Women's Network. I have to think about that now, right?
I know. Now it's the Spiritual Biz
WN.
YouTubers. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I had met you, which is really interesting because it just like a complete, almost like shift introduction, right? Because I really don't talk to that person, but then you and I have really just extended our journey on together. It became a big student, a big fan, and try to help lead as well, right? Like put your model into place and then try to help model it for others to follow, because there's just so much amazing thing. I was clueless, right? So I didn't know how to put my business together. And I have shared before, I had a YouTube account.
Rather than a YouTube channel. And now you're here. So Robin was lurking. Okay. Robin was planning on lurk. She didn't lurk. She planned on lurking. You know, like you're here with us, and you kind of, whether you comment or not, you're kind of lurking, watching what's going on, getting the nuggets. And then I said to everyone in the group, hey, come on, be visible, do a video visibility challenge. And Robin's like, what?
And you did I was like, oh man, I almost left the group, but I did the challenge instead.
Did you? What? See, when you
I ain't doing that.
So I didn't know you almost left the group. So when you hear that guidance and your soul is calling you to be in an environment and to hear and to get that guidance, we've been on an amazing journey together. And I've been coaching Robin. Robin's been coaching me. And like you said, you became a lead soul guided instructor for the Spiritual Business Woman Network, for the Spiritual Business YouTubers Network and the Soul Legacy Academy. So I really do appreciate you. So we know each other really well. And so share with us, before we dive into your story, what you do and who you do it for on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, so I really aim to teach fellow empathic healers various energy healing methods. So from Usui Reiki to our thought process, our emotions, moving through the chakras, all the chakra energy, because everything is energy, right? So really just bringing that in, but bringing also the strong focus on self-care, self-worth, and self-love without feelings of blame, shame, and guilt, because as empathic healers, we are kind of programmed, taught to remove ourselves, right? Like we're just insignificant, but we're needed to help rescue and save everyone else. So
Yeah.
Bringing that
That's
back into
huge.
perspective, protecting our energy, right? Setting
Yeah.
those boundaries so that we still show up in the ways that we want to show up, and we can still be helpful in the ways that we want to be helpful, but we're not denying and harming ourselves in the process.
I love that. So, with that said, we're going to dive deep into how you got to that point. And so, when I've brought so this is the second Wednesday. I call it Binge Watch Wednesdays. We go live. This is season one. We're scheduled out for 7 seasons. Season one of the Spiritual Awakening on Your YouTube Summit. And on the two middle Wednesdays of the month, it's kind of like a binge watch. Like, if you are on that train of thought and you're catching those vibes and you're going through that awakening, here are some guests to actually support you on your journey. And so, before we dive into that, making those connections is what I really want to do. I didn't know, like when I was awakening, I didn't have people around me that got it, or just to even have a conversation with. So I went on to YouTube, hence why we're on YouTube. So Alice is here. Thank you, Alice, for joining us. Thank you for bringing your energy to this conversation. Again, ask any questions of Robin, chime in anything that is a confirmation or anything that resonates or anything that is similar. So Robin, yeah, please do share with us your memory of your first spiritual awakening. When did life really change for you to know that actually we are souls having a human experience, not the other way around?
Well, it's interesting that you bring it up in that way because,
Mm,
yeah, I mean, childhood, like we know something's different, right? And I've used the word misfit, like always feeling like that misfit. And I
mm,
was brought up in, like a Christian background. So I was always had an awareness of, to a degree, how it's taught to us that there is something bigger and something more than the human experience, but in a very different way, of course. But when things finally, like when it comes into that depth of view, right? Because we find ways to survive through that whole process and all of those years and trying to figure it out on our own or keeping it hidden, right? Because we don't want to feel like that misfit in those times. So it really brought it out, kind of open and broke the egg open for me, so to speak, is I would say when my brother made his typically a fatal suicide attempt and survived that. And then moving through that
wow.
year with him, and we really got to explore some things together, because that was an awakening experience for him as well. So I got to hear his points of views, have my
Yeah,
own,
yeah,
and then he transitioned and I had more to move through. So, a lot of that humanness, ego, blame, shame, and guilt going on, and
yeah,
then taking on so much, still trying to show up, feeling more like, oh, I have to help people, taking on responsibility of others. I have to help people because there's that fear of someone else could, right? Make
yeah,
feel that low where they make that decision
yeah,
for themselves too, like just want to exit, to where
yeah,
I myself got in the space where I wanted to exit, right? Because it became
yeah.
so
I hear
heavy.
that.
And
Hmm.
you don't really talk about those things to other people because you have expectations laid upon you, right?
Hmm.
So you just fumble through until you can't fumble through anymore. And then, so I would say what helped me then shift through that and still be here, because that was like
It's big.
2000 between, there were years in between, right? It's a process. These things don't
Mm.
happen always so quickly. It's a process. So from actually 2005 until 2011, 2012, 2013, right? Like
Hear
there's a
you.
gap of
Mm,
going through these things.
mm,
But in the time that I was kind of planning my exit strategy, I kept this voice, I kept hearing, just wait, just wait.
mm, mm.
So I waited. I'm like, it didn't make sense in my humanness. Like, wait for
No,
what? I'm tired of
I'm
waiting.
done.
When yeah, I'm done with this. I can't do this anymore. You know how the ego will take you even further down into the trenches.
Hmm.
But I heard that just wait. And then it came up of what I needed to wait for. And then I had to continue moving through it. So I think that was
Wow.
one of my biggest eye openers. There's pieces in between, and I think there's always
I
pieces
hear
in
that.
our journey, um, and that help us move through. And again, it's a process, so pieces at a time, right? I did a lot of my work initially through learning things like mental health,
Mhm.
and then applying those techniques to help me through. And they are helpful, but it didn't get me fully over that hump. I still felt that weight. So it
Right.
was the spiritual beliefs, that tapping into the spiritualness, what I call the source of unconditional love. Some call it God, source, creator, whatever, names that you give. But it is that. And pulling that in is what is my saving grace.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing and sharing so deeply and so openly, and all of the experiences, they take us back, and it's still can be raw, to share. So thank you. And Alice says, oh, amen. And so if you're watching this and you've experienced something similar, either there've been those dark times, there has for me, and more recently over the years for different reasons. And most recently, the last spiritual awakening that I went through burnout, it's for real. Those times where you're like, I am so done, and it's not to minimize that experience. It really does. And I know that we're here, but in those moments, we don't know we're going to be here, if that makes sense. So that's why I wanted to bring that this space to have those conversations, and actually have the spiritual ascension after show party, so that it's more in a contained and a private space, so that we can continue on those the conversation. And so I want to bring where you said that you had the experience and you had the conversation, you were able to have some of the conversations with your brother, which is just beautiful that you were able to experience that. But you were saying that you were awakening, but the mental health, learning about mental health, and part of my mission is to improve the mental health and well-being of our nation and our future generation. That's big for me. So you learned about mental health, but it didn't actually get you through the whole of the spiritual. Like you needed to something was missing, is what I'm hearing. So I know your journey and your journey through your light work and what you were here to do. And what I want to do is make that connection. So that fixing people and helping people, as you say, and that's what we do. It's like, of course, we don't want anyone to go through that. And there's so many things that you've unpacked as in that unconditional love, because I know it reflects in the work that you do now. And that's where that gap is, like all of that trauma, all of those experiences, the dark decade of the soul that I had, because you said it wasn't just a one-time thing, it was a process, and it's getting through that process. So you were learning about mental health. Can you walk us through a little bit of that journey and how that impacted and changed the trajectory of your life? And just before you do, I just want to acknowledge Alice. Alice says, I never accept people telling me to be patient, but when spirit says it, just wait. Just that knowing. So there's two different points. And I don't know if it was that you learned about the mental health and then you had that experience of just wait when you brought the spirituality in. But it's just making sense of looking back at our experience. And that's why we're journaling. Journal. Alice has been through burnout a lot in my life. And spiritual awakening comes up in so many different ways, and that's why we're here. And we'll talk about that a little bit more, about the areas of our life that it comes out. And so that mental health, can you share a little bit more about that journey, please, Robin?
Yeah. So, like, as I feel like it's most people, our journeys actually start in childhood, right? So I grew up with like addiction and mental health and whatnot within my family, and then realizing my own, throughout the years. So then when I went to school to be a mental health therapist, right, to provide mental health treatment and addiction treatment. But I also applied what I was learning. So there was a lot of great things in that, like being aware of the mind and how we think. So cognitive behavioral therapy, I know a lot of people don't like it. It is a lot of work, but it does help. Like it really does help. It allowed me to start to see a different perspective. And a lot of things that we talk about in the spiritual community, it directly relates. We just use different terms, right? Like mirror work or shadow work. And a lot of these things too, again, they're side by side or they coincide. It's just different language that we use. But what I found too, that many steps of in CBT correlate slightly different, correlate to the chakra system, right? Which is where my best you came from, my acronym of best you. And the part I felt that CBT missed, so this is where I feel like a good connection comes in, is that spiritual piece of unconditional love, because our mind and ego is so powerful, it can debate itself. Like that whole saying of argue with yourself, I did that a lot in my own mind, but it was like my ego arguing with my ego. My ego justified my ego. So how do you break that? You pull in the source of unconditional love. That's how you break that. That was my piece that was missing. I needed that higher piece that could rise above the justifications, that could rise above the personalizations, that could rise above the ego, and just not beat it up, but hold space with love and compassion and say, hey, it's okay.
Yeah.
But what
I
else?
love that.
We're bigger than that. We're beyond that. We're more than that.
I love that. Thank you so much. And just to bring that energy and that realization. So you've gone on this path and you've learned about different modalities. You've learned about mental health, and then there's something. So, do you resonate with that? Those who are listening, and Alice, you add in your energy, but if you're watching on the replay as well, if you resonate with that just having that knowing, just like that voice of, wait, there's just that knowing of, it's bigger than me, there's something else that is missing. So you started to bring in more of that spiritual essence. And what I want to kind of dive a little bit deeper into, you said about the best version of you is your acronym. I know your acronym. So in contrast to being the best version of you, when you've gone through all of those dark times and it's been over a period of time, how did you make the transition from practicing the mental health and then bringing that into your work, like transitioning? Because I want to know the spiritual ascension tools that has helped everyone, not because we want to say this is what you must use, but sometimes people try this and they try that and this is working, that's not working. So what did you do? How were you guided to that next step? Was it a whisper? Was it a person? What came into your life to say, hang on, like, here's a new way? Because sometimes we don't necessarily always listen to that guidance. It's like it comes in a disguise or it comes in something else. And before we do, I just want to acknowledge Alice. Thank you for the yes. And me too. My family is and as light workers, many times we position ourselves in places that feel a bit dark, where we want to birth our light, right? So Alice said psychology only goes so far, though. I about fainted when I saw my psychologist saying psychology can only go so far. That's why I loved Jung. Okay, I've done with the childcare stuff. I used to read a lot. Understand the shadow of what I call shadowisms is key. Oh, thank you. Yeah. So, what were you guided? What kind of tools did you use? I think you kind of mentioned it a little bit, but I want to go back a step.
Sure. And interestingly, it was when I was a mental health addiction treatment therapist, I had to get supervision, right? My supervisor actually says, you should look into Reiki. So I looked into Reiki and I had a Reiki session. I was interested both in receiving it and then learning how to teach it, right? So that started my energy healing journey, like really into it. I had read upon it before. I'd had conversations about it before. I'd looked things up on the internet before, right? But that really kind of, again, broke a new egg open, if you will, into the energy work and learn more about the chakras and just the movement of energy. And again, really bringing in, and that allowed me to clear out some of my energy to feel. Because there's a difference between knowing, right? Knowing that there is a source of unconditional love and being able to feel it. And I got to be able to feel it again after my energy was cleared. So then I started learning about more tools in that process, right? Learning about, again, the energy movement, using stones and crystals for, extra support or clearing. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm actually still burning incense behind me. So, using incense or sage or Palo Santo to help clear my energy around me. Many, many different modalities, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that, because that sometimes we make it more complicated than it needs to be when we're in that dark night, or when it doesn't feel like I'm ever going to get out of this. So it's like, okay, well, just try this one thing, and then this next thing, and then this next thing, and you might add and you might stack. But I think that hearing you, we also had Casey on the show earlier, and she was talking about, we're all energy and we're creating with the universe, and so that spiritual awakening and understanding that we are all energy is huge. So I met Casey through you, through your connection and your conversation, and you being interviewed by Casey, and Casey was saying about when you are at that lower vibrational frequency and you're putting your orders out in the universe and trying to manifest. So when you were learning about energy, at what point, like, how high vibe or low vibe were you? Like, where were you when you came across that, and how did it help you elevate? How did that spiritual, what was the difference, what was the contrast in, if I would have seen you back then, prior to Reiki and energy and clearing it, because you said you did a lot of clearing, to now, what's the difference, the different version of you to be the best version of you? What was, I wouldn't say worst, but what was that version of you?
Well, the worst version of me was very stuck in ego, like the defense, right? The fight, flight, freeze mode, those trauma responses to where we're just always on guard. It's a survival technique, right? Okay. So my survival technique oftentimes was to fight, not fist fight per se.
Right.
Apparently I had that look in my eye enough that most people wouldn't push me that far, because it was really icky though. Yeah, but it was, it worked. I survived. But it's heavy and gross, and that's not the energy. That's not the best me, right? That's not the best version of me. That's not in alignment with the source of unconditional love. That's just a human trying to defend itself and survive.
So was that
it got ugly?
Was that in your relationships? Because we go through spiritual awakening for many different. What was that, your relationships, where you say that people were not going to come over here and test that? Where?
I mean, relationships are just in general. So like just this, I don't know, this is an odd example that's popped in my head, so I'll share it. But like even in college, so there we had, it seemed like every stinking week, there was a warning that we were receiving by email, a security warning about people being all kinds of different things on campus, right? So when I even showed up at school, I made sure I made eye contact with people, right? So I almost put forth that energy like a chip on my shoulder, like, try me.
Right.
Right.
Hear that.
Try me. And then, so it didn't even have to be my personal relationships. I got double takes from people like, probably wondering what the heck was wrong with me, and I didn't say a word. I just, it was that energy I put forth.
So you knew you were using your energy and projecting it out in that way of my energy will overpower you. Hold that space for the Celestine prophecy. But anyway, keep going. Right?
So yeah, exactly. But again, it worked in that sense. Like I felt safe because I stood my ground, mostly safe because I stood my ground. But it was all out of ego-ness stuff, instead of being in a space where now, when I'm out and about, again, it's not often, but it's just by choice, or, life doesn't require me to be out and about. I'm not in college anymore. But when I am out and about, instead of wearing that armor of ego, I'm just standing more in clear faith. And there's a difference. I'm still aware of my surroundings, right? I still make eye contact, but when I say make eye contact, I might say hello instead, instead of that, try me attitude or energy. It's more calmness, and it's more, again, that security of just freedom.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to predict what may or may not happen, right? I'm just showing up in love, in a space of love. I'm not going around hugging everybody, but just, holding love within my own energy as I move, and then trusting and having faith that I'm divinely protected. My ego doesn't have to come out with,
I love
ready
that
kind of thing.
I love that because you say that, this is how you were showing up, and we know that, what we put out, we're affecting the collective. So do you know what I mean? We take personal responsibility for our energy. And so you said a couple of times it felt safer to project that out. And so I know your work and talking about protecting your energy. So you do that energy protection, but in a completely different way. Before I go there, I just want to pause and just acknowledge Alice, and also pulling in the Celestine prophecy with that and the dominant energy. I think that goes really together really nicely. So hold that. So Alice says, excuse me, understanding spirit is eternal wisdom, which is both dark and light wisdom energy, and not looking at either as evil or bad, but flow and blocked truth of energy. Yeah. Alice is laughing, ready to rumble. Like, listen, and I had that. I was street. Listen, let me tell you. And I'm little as well, so I was like, I had to be bigger. Like, and I didn't even fight. I was like really soft underneath. I was like, I was so soft. It looked good. It worked. Exactly, like it worked. Robin and I, our journeys when we talk about our background and stuff, like, girl. So Alice says, why see it as ugly? Why not see hurt or phased? And that's one of the reasons why I want to have these conversations, because I know that spiritual awakening comes through many different areas of our life, and I like to say the 7 freedoms. And so the areas I say, the cheers to financial freedom frequency, that is part of understanding the dark, so that we're birthing more light. And so each area you might go through your spiritual awakening in the contribution, which you went through your jobs, and now you're doing the work in the world, your health, mental health, obviously emotions, obviously that grief and that sadness and that, love, not loving yourself, and through your environment, the environment that we grow up in, our relationships, our spirituality, like you mentioned, religion, and our finances. So we're here to say that we're just normalizing and just having a conversation, and it's just an experience. Alice says we all need to get better understanding of emotions without judgment. And so it's Emotional Freedom Wednesday here at the Soul Legacy TV, and I talk about on the 7 Freedoms Frequency podcast exactly that. And so it happened. I've just realized that this spiritual awakening story and the series happened on this day, and I didn't plan it that way. And it is, when you go through a spiritual awakening, it's rocky and it's very emotional. It's a very emotional time. So Alice says, me too. So thank you, Robin. So yeah, just share with the energy, and and feeling safe by not necessarily needing to project that out, like, and how you can do that in a softer way, in a more loving way. And then again, the Celestine prophecy for somebody who hasn't watched that movie.
Oh, so if you have not read the books or watched the movie, The
Oh,
Celestine Prophecy, you should really put that on your to-do list.
yeah.
The movie is considered a B movie, so it's not like done with all the I mean, it might have cost millions, but hang in there and really just observe as you're watching it, because there's so many. I still watch it. Like, there's still times where I'm like, you know what? I just want a refresher. What will I see this time, right? So that was one of the first books, and then they came out with a movie. Well, there's more than one book, but one movie. It gave me that visual to be able to see the energy, right? They did it in a way that you could even just between the fingers, they had that moment of seeing like the wisp of energy. Because I personally don't see energy. I know some people do. I don't. I'm more the feeling and knowing, not seeing.
Yeah.
But you could like see that wisp of energy between even just their own fingers, or noticing that when you're sharing the energy with a plant, right? Getting to see things brighten up, or the fork on the road, right? What path you take. One seems dim and one seems brighter. So you follow that guidance and you go down the brighter path. However, what comes out of that path, you think, oh my gosh, I just made this big mistake. And what happened? And there's confusion and there's all these things. And then you find out that it led you exactly where you were asking to go, because things aren't always as they seem. So I absolutely love that. And that share of energy as you speak to, yeah, it showed that as well. Like, it showed, was that like a bluish color, more of the love, calmer energy that's being shared and expended, and then the other seemed more like that red controlling, where it takes over and overpowers energy, and we can feel that, right? We feel that in our relationships, or we feel that shift in the energy and
somebody's
whatnot.
vibe,
So
right? So you were definitely going
yeah,
on with the red
I had lots of red.
vibe. The red vibe. And it's that projecting that dominant, and not even that,
Yeah,
you're necessarily doing it in that way, but just the thoughts, those kinds of thoughts. There's thoughts that
right.
spiral down and there's thoughts that spiral up, and that's
Mhm.
what that attraction is. And so when
Yeah,
there's that dominant energy, then it's kind of like the person that doesn't have that energy, it just feels off. So that, I love that you talk about that, and it made me just connect it in that moment to the energy and being an empath and being a healer, and so how we protect our energy, which brings us really nicely into the gift that you bring to the Spiritual Awakening on your YouTube summit and the Spiritual Alchemy giveaway. Can you share a little bit about that? I'll share your
yes.
comment in a second, Alice.
So one of the tools that I continue, just one of the tools, but one of the tools I continually use for myself is the journaling process, right? So as
Mm,
we show up every day and walk through that, so it brings in the common journaling process, but then I bring in what I call the seven energies because it blends with the seven chakras. And then
yeah,
my acronym of Best You, and then there's the acronym of self-care just kind of dropped right in with all of it. And they make the
yeah.
connections for each one of those days and each one of the chakras for each.
Mm-hmm.
So I basically just I put a journal together.
Yeah,
I have the
thank you.
basic prompts on the top. So I follow like three basic steps in my journaling to bring awareness, assess my energy, and then align with the source of unconditional love, right?
I love
And then I
that.
talk about that each day. So I print or
Mm-hmm.
I put download it into a PDF format so that I could share with everyone
Yeah,
who does the
thank you.
upgrade to have that journal. And then if you want more than just the printed, you can come visit me
Yeah,
on
yeah.
Facebook,
Well,
any of the
yeah,
platforms, and we can go
yeah.
deeper together. So,
Yeah, I love that. I love that you've now actually taken what was something that wasn't necessarily serving you in the best way, completely flipped it around. And I don't know if you made that connection, because I made that connection in that moment, and that's what this journey is about, making that connection. So I just want to acknowledge Alice. Thank you, Alice, for adding your energy. Says I keep falling asleep during it. I get worn out. I eat, even own it. It was watching the Celestine Prophecy.
oh,
Oh, loves plants. Yeah, that bright, that bright. It's just such a good. And Robin was telling me about it for the longest time, for about 2 years or something. I'm like, yeah, I'll watch it. Of course I watch. And I just didn't get around to watching it. And I watched it. I was like, girl, why don't you have me watch this sooner? She's like, I've been done telling you. She was telling me all the time. And you'd watched it like, I don't know, probably about 5 times, and I still not watched it.
mhm.
So Alice says, if you ever wonder if you love, if you ever wonder if you love well plants, kids, and cats, me, they tell you. Okay, so that energy of from children, that innocent
Mhm.
kind of, that pure, that pure energy that's not tainted. You talked about the ego and that, having that argument between yourself and then, yeah, exactly. So the children and the plants and the
Mhm.
cat don't have that going on as we do with our humanness. um
Right.
Alice says Ho'opono does it for me during meditation. Absolutely. And my guest Ramona Miles, she's also a soul guided instructor, and she talks about Ho'opono, and Robin and I think we've all done like the certification, or started. I started it, I didn't finish it, for the Ho'opono. So thank you for that. It's huge, and it is energy. um Alice says they respond without ego, exactly, and that's that remembering, right? And so we know, but sometimes, like you say, we forget. And so you're providing a space on your YouTube channel, and within your online teaching portal, the Energy Healing School. So you said that you use Reiki, and you talked about the self-care and what you use. Can you explain? You can go either way, either the Best You acronym or the self-care acronym, or both, because not everybody does know what that is. And I think that it's really valuable, because when you go to the upgrade for the spiritual ascension and the spiritual alchemy giveaway, you'll see that actually this process actually laid out.
Hmm. Absolutely. And if you don't mind, I want to speak to something real
Yeah,
quick that Alice brought up
yeah,
about
yeah,
plants.
yeah,
Quick funny story is before I ever received Reiki, I
yeah.
was not a plant person at
Oh,
all. I
I
couldn't keep a
can't keep
plant.
them alive.
I couldn't
There you
keep a
go.
plant alive if
I
my life
literally,
depended on it. I just
literally
couldn't.
can't.
And to be honest, I know this is going to sound
Mm.
rude, but I didn't care. I didn't really care. It
Yeah,
wasn't my thing.
right.
I found
I
it so
cared, but I
stinking
couldn't do it.
strange.
Yeah,
I couldn't, at the
that people
time,
were.
I didn't care. But I
Yeah,
found it so stinking strange that after I received Reiki, I had such an urge and drive, and I had to get plants.
really.
Where in the heck did that come from? Right.
Wow, just that
So my
nature
kid even
bringing
was
that in.
like, I have two kids, but yeah,
Yeah,
my one son, I'm
what are you
like, dude,
doing?
I have to go get plants. You want to go? And he's like, you what?
But yeah, that's just what you're
And
doing.
now I garden. Like I
Hmm.
absolutely love being in nature. My
So
garden are my babies.
true.
I have I had a plant room. It became my healing room. I did Reiki in my healing room. I have plants in the room now. Love them.
Wow.
It's amazing. But you're right. It's like it's energy and it's pure because my
Yeah.
plant didn't sit back and say, "Oh, I like what you're doing today," or judge me by the
Yes.
ego, right? It's just like you said, the Alice, it's just reacting. It's just
Yeah.
whatever I'm bringing, it's reacting
Mm,
to it. So
I
it was just
love
so funny
that.
to me.
That
Yeah.
connection again. And yeah, so
Yeah.
the environmental
Yeah.
freedom. So we're triggered through our environment. And sometimes when we haven't got that environment that's conducive and supportive
Mhm.
to, our own healing,
Yeah.
our growth, then we just actually make the environment. So I love that. You're definitely a plant
Yeah.
lady.
Yeah.
and
And I had to
growing
fix
all
my
the
inner
things.
environment before I could get to
Yes.
that space, right? Which
Yes.
Reiki helped bring for me. So
Yes.
yeah. So my
I love that.
seven energies, if you will, a quick
Yeah.
run through. I
Okay.
start, on Mondays, I start with the root chakra, right? I don't
Hmm.
really go in deeply with the
Yeah.
root chakra. However, making the connection with the energy of the chakras, because also in the root, in best you, it's beliefs, because our
Hmm.
beliefs are literally rooted in our human experience, right? How we experience our life and our beliefs. And
Yeah.
self care is self awareness, bringing these things into our awareness, which is why
100%.
I really love the journaling process, right? It helps us
I
to
do.
bring these things into our awareness. Then
100%.
Tuesdays, it's sacral chakra, which governs our emotions. So really in
Mhm.
best you and self-care. So if you wrote these words out and followed along as an acronym, the letter E, I just use emotions because they are
Yeah.
so profound for us as humans, right?
It's
Energy and
everything.
motion.
It's everything.
Yeah. And we recreate it and we reproduce it. And yeah, we use it for manifesting,
Festing.
right?
Oh yeah, I was just about to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Regardless of if it's heavy or light, we're using it to manifest. We're
Hmm.
creating more of it. We're reproducing more of it. So I use that for Tuesdays.
Hmm.
Wednesdays, today's, it's solar
Yes.
plexus chakra. So
Mm.
in Best You, I'm talking about the self image because solar plexus is all about ourself, right? Our what they
Yeah.
call our personal power.
Hmm.
And then in self care, it's love because meeting self with love and compassion, right? Part of that piece I was explaining I missed in just cognitive behavior theory by itself because I didn't
Hmm.
meet myself with love and compassion. I
Wow.
assumed, like, if you reflect back to, um, and I'm not pounding on any religious, but some beliefs that we have when there's a higher power, then that higher power judges us and then it beats us up when we make mistakes and it beats us up when we're not good enough, right? So
Yeah.
being able to shift that
We
over and
are.
meeting self with love and compassion.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So.
that's where I can allow myself to heal when I give myself a break. I own it. I'm not
Hmm.
hiding
Hmm.
it or dismissing it or avoiding it and ignoring it, but I'm meeting myself with love and compassion. So meeting that self or self image with love and compassion.
Hmm.
And then what day am I on? Thursday.
Thursday. Yeah.
Thursdays, the heart chakra.
Hmm.
So where the lower energies come up and are met with the higher chakras.
Hmm.
I talk about going through acronyms in my head. T for transformation, I invest you, and then in self-care, F is forgiveness. So you mentioned Ho'oponopono, Alice. I bring that in on the heart chakra days because I believe that
100%.
at least allowing forgiveness to occur is transformational in itself, right? So that includes forgiving ourselves and others. So that's
100%.
massive for Thursday in the heart chakra. And then Friday is throat chakra, communication for self-care. And best you, it's your truth, right? How we speak, how we communicate, all affects the energy in the throat chakra. See what I mean? They're like all
Big.
blended and melded together. And then Saturdays, third eye chakra. In self-care, it's the letter A. I actually just shifted this for transparency. I was
Okay.
focusing on
Yeah.
alignment, but I actually do that
Yeah.
every day, right? Being
Yes.
aware, assessing, and aligning.
Right.
Acceptance came back into my awareness. So
Massive.
acceptance now, yeah, it is massive
Acceptance
as
of
well
what
because if we
is.
resist
Resist
it,
it.
yes,
Yes. I knew it. Yes. Accepting
yep,
what
we
is.
have to
Right.
accept what is in order to make any kind of shifts or open ourselves
And
up, right?
and and to be in alignment, right? It's like if you if
Yeah,
there's yeah. So that's the piece
yeah,
before the. Yeah, I love it. Makes
because
sense.
if we
Keep going.
resist it, we shut it down, we don't see it, we block it, and all the things. We
And
don't
we're
get
not
into
aligned.
alignment then. Yep.
Truth.
Yeah. And then in best you, it is observe. So being in that observer mode. So as I was saying about shifting up in that higher vibrational energy from the source of unconditional love and being able to observe my human, my thoughts, my emotions, my actions, my self-image, my all the things without the judgment, right? Which was huge for
I
me.
was gonna say it's not even easy, is it? It really isn't.
No, no. And then Sundays is with crown chakra,
Oh,
self-care, the letter R, receiving. So allowing ourselves to receive, and what are we receiving, right? Are we receiving the criticism and the judgment, or are we receiving the energy from the source of unconditional love? And then
mm,
best you is the unconditional love.
oh,
So that's a
wow.
quick walkthrough of my seven
It
energies and what we journal on.
every single day, and then what you will get as an upgrader, but also, Robin is there every single day doing her self-care, the acronym, but it's energetic self-care and that protection, because when you are being aware and assessing and aligning, and I know you've got the pray as well, right? The
Hmm.
pray
Hmm.
acronym.
Yes,
um
yes.
when you walk through that, Robin, I don't know if while you were walking through it, whether you really caught how deep that is. So Robin has been working, we've been working together for a couple of years now, and I've seen this journey unfold. And Alice, I'll come to you in a second. Thank you for adding your comments. The way that it's come in and the way that it's dropped in has been an awakening in and of itself. And I'm telling you now, anyone that is going through that awakening, to go through, obviously we're energy, right? To go through the chakras and then go through the awareness and address each of these pieces is just golden. I've done it. I've been on this journey with Robin. Like I say, we've been implementing very intentionally. But as you explained it, I'm like, that is that tool for the process of awakening, like, and
Yes.
manifesting. It literally is. I'm like, oh wow, what gold. When we almost minimize the simplicity of something and the simplicity of the repetition, I'm like, that just was like an opening and an expansiveness, and how you've drop them in together, and that duality. And it's not dualities in contrast, but just the, I'm going to focus on this and I'm going to focus on this, and actually I'm going to bring those together, which creates a completely different vibration and a completely different energy by pairing
Yeah.
very intentionally those things. And I absolutely love that. And I know that when you watch this back, you'll hear that. I heard that very, very, very deeply. That just like, wow. Alice says, thank you, Alice. She said they don't judge, they don't respond, they react. Since I was a kid, those three. Yeah, for the children and the cats and and the plants. I share babies all the time. So honesty, thank you. So sister. And so when we had the spiritual woman network, we business. I can't even say it. When I had that other network was about spiritual business women. If you don't know, it grew to 1,200 members in 12 weeks, and I was just absolutely buzzing. And as Robin says, that's how we were introduced, like that invitation. And so if that didn't happen, then we wouldn't be in each other's lives, and you wouldn't be getting that gold. That's the way the universe
Oh,
works. Definitely served its purpose. but I'm like, I'm not on that frequency anymore. We've expanded so much since the day where you tried to lurk. I'm just saying. So we used to say, we used to say, sister. At no point did we think that you'd be on camera, because I had a video visibility challenge, and Robin's like, "Yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that." And look, and we're here, so it's beautiful. Alice says yes. You know, when we listen to that guidance, and you know the way that, like you said, you had a YouTube account rather than a YouTube channel, that you felt like that. I mean, had done videos, and you'd got the seeds of what you were doing before. We've been through multiple spiritual awakenings together on this journey, for real. And it's beautiful to have someone holding space. And for those of you who don't know, Robin had been holding space. I'd been offline for like a couple of years in total, just about, like, definitely for the year that I was fostering. And like pausing that group and then deleting that group and then bringing the Spiritual Biz YouTubers network is why this is birthed, and it's birthed on YouTube. And it just makes so much sense, because when we go for that awakening, I believe it's our duty to actually share our light work in the world and not hide behind closed doors. However, there was lots of people in there who were prepared to hide, and I'm like, I can't make a stand for that. I can't make a stand for that. Actually, you're going to be visible on camera because the world needs you. And we're going to do the M word, which is the marketing. And this is it. This is us actually working. This is work, right? This is marketing, because people are like, oh, well, marketing to me is having a conversation. Like, you know, there's ways that people do certain things in the world. My phone is just saying all sorts that I was not in alignment with. And I had to go through my spiritual awakening and my journey to get me to this part. And Robin's held space for that. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Robin. Thank you, Alice, for being here. I want to respect your time. Robin, before I'm going to wrap up, I'm going to ask if you want to leave any other messages for Alice and for those who watch on the replay. And I'm going to ask you what your legacy is. So it gives you a bit of time to kind of, you know, feel into that. So again, you know, this space for the Spiritual Awakening Annual YouTube Summit has been something that's been in the works for me for years. And we are at season 1. And we are at our second Binge Watch Wednesdays. And Robin knows that it's been in my mind, in my vision, for a really long time. And it's just been birthed. And I've scheduled this out for the next 7 years. And the seasons run from October through to April on the 2 middle Wednesdays of the month. You'll see all the dates and everything else at the Soul Legacy Academy, and the links down below to upgrade. And the upgrade is $11.11 for you to join us and have a conversation on a Zoom call in a private space, because I'm aware that building something and holding space, you know, not everybody wants to say everything on the social media. And I think it's really important to have a space where we can have more private conversations. Other people will be there and on the call, and I may stream them out in the attendees Facebook group, if you know that grows. But I feel honored and I feel really blessed to be able to hold space for this conversation. Please do share it out. Please do invite attendees into the Facebook group. I know people have resistance to that, but you know, it's our duty to share a message, and it might not always be our message, and it might just be something that someone you know needs to hear. So I do say click that invite button. You know, take that, you know, a couple of minutes to just click invite. There's a special invite button. Like and comment, like the YouTube video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to Robin's channel, because it does help. It does help with getting the message out there. I really appreciate your time, Alice. I can't even remember what time it is for you, Alice. I think it's a ridiculous time again. So I do appreciate you being here. So Robin, is there anything else that you want to share with our audience, with Alice for being here, and just those final thoughts or those final words of any connection that you've made to your own journey, or like you want to speak to somebody else's journey? Is this something that you'd like to share with us?
Well, first, if I can, Iona, I just let me take a quick second to say thank you as well for being in my
Oh,
corner and being along the
you're
journey
welcome.
with me and
Thank you.
supporting me too when I was having some ups and downs and ins and outs and all the things going around, and for
Yeah.
creating this space for us and for doing this summit so that we can come on and share our stories, and for making it a comfortable space because it's the first time I actually shared that much out loud
Yeah.
on
Thank you
camera with
so
others,
much. Yeah. It's
right? So,
big.
and I had some feelings about sharing that, but so thank you for
You're
for
welcome.
having giving the space for us to do that
Mm,
comfortably. And thank you,
thank you.
Alice, for being here, and anyone else who has hopped on live or replay to share this time and space with us. The biggest thing I think I want to share, my movement, literally, right? I call it a self-love movement, and it's not about the ickiness. It's not about the ego loving itself, and it's not about all of that, that low
Mm,
vibe energy. It
mm,
truly is that alignment with the source of unconditional love. It really is to say, because I believe if we all loved ourselves enough, suicide wouldn't be a
mhm,
thing. It just
mhm,
wouldn't. And
mhm,
spiritual awakening processes can be long and deep and
mhm.
dark and hard, right? But to just wait, whatever, wherever that message came from, right? Just wait, reach out, don't give up, love yourself enough. It's not about beating ourselves down for the mistakes we made or not knowing what we didn't know until we knew it. It's about meeting ourselves with love and
Mhm,
compassion, right? And moving through that so we can continue to show up and be here to do what we're supposed to do, whatever that may be. We might do
mhm,
that in the store. We might do that as we pass strangers in a park. We might do it anywhere, but we're here for a reason. And we know that because we're here. So having some
100%.
trust and
Wow.
faith in that,
I love that. Thank you. So, with that said, what is the legacy that you believe that you are here to leave?
that. So
Yeah.
my right, my own family history kind of tells me that that's a big thing, the mental health, whether it's, substance abuse addictions or food addictions, whatever it may be, addictions of drama, the addiction to fix things, the addiction to help, addictions can be widespread.
Mm,
But all of that and that assumption that we have to help everyone else and not ourselves to break that, because that's more than that. We help others by helping us too, right?
mm.
We have
Yeah,
to
I
start
love that.
here. So bringing it in to start here so we can continue to
Mm,
help others as well. And obviously, I want to break the cycles I've repeated that I've lived through for my own children and my grandchildren and so on and so forth. And then as
mm.
they also share and do their work in the world, we create that ripple effect.
Oh, that's you took the words right out. I was going to say that ripple effect, and Casey had said, the legacy that you want one person at a time is one
Yeah.
person at a time. And so, if this has
Yeah.
been helpful for you, let us know that you are that one person at a time, right?
Yeah.
So, thank you so much for being here with me, Robin, sharing your story so openly. And I know that people are not going to hold back here because we have been gifted in those dark nights and that trauma. None of us are exempt from it. And
Mhm.
being behind closed doors, it's painful suffering in silence or alone, and we want more than that for you. It is okay. It is okay. If that's the first time that somebody's saying just wait, please, just wait, see. Because the spiritual awakening is for a reason. It is to develop your own skills, your own, and to discover what you are here on this earthly plane, to get clarity around that. So there are the most beautiful moments on the other side of that, and it changes your trajectory of your life forever. And when those rough dark times come around again, you have enough knowledge and enough awareness and belief in you to be able to handle that. So thank you so much. Thank you. And guys,
Well
I will
said.
see you. Thank you. We have another episode of Binge Watch Wednesdays at 9 p.m. UK time. And then we will go for November, December, January, February, March, and April for this rest of this season. So I've really enjoyed this energy, and thank you again. Right, take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye.